Hello and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have a wonderful group of outstanding Chelmsford citizens on the show tonight to talk about local, state, and national issues. And with me for the first time on the show is Tom Gilroy. How are you, Tom?
Well, thank you.
Tom, thanks for being on the show, and thanks for serving on the Finance Committee. You were appointed there, what, about a year ago or something?
It was in June, yes.
In June?
In June, yes.
And how's it going so far?
So far, it's going very well. Very busy.
Wonderful. Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit on the show if you want to talk about what's happening more specifically with the Finance Committee. Any other committees that you're on in town that you'd like to mention or anything? Oh, the Republican Town Committee.
I'm no longer on the Republican Town Committee.
You're
no.
not?
I'm
Oh.
not, no, I resigned from that.
Oh.
So I'm flying free right now.
Oh, who's the chairperson of that now? Do you know?
I really couldn't tell you.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Oh, I see. Wow. Well, that's a big change. I didn't expect that. Well, thanks for being here, Tom. I hope you have a great time.
I will, I'm sure.
And Pat is a veteran of the show. This is what, your 21st time on the show, Pat?
Is it?
Pat Wojtas.
I haven't been counting.
But I have. It's on my
I'm
Excel
sure.
spreadsheet. And as everyone knows, Pat Wojtas is a selectman here in Chelmsford. You're serving in what, your second term, Pat?
Depends how you count them.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see. So how many years have you been a selectman?
Well, I've been since 2007. 2007 is when I was first elected.
Oh.
And except for a 6-month gap when Mr. Kurland ousted me there, I.
I didn't oust you, it was the other one.
Okay. So, but yeah, except for a 6-month gap, I've been
Oh,
since
wonderful.
then.
And
so.
how do you like it so far, Pat,
Well,
being a
obviously,
selectman?
I like doing it, or I wouldn't still be there. So
Wow,
yeah.
it's a lot of work, a lot of time,
It
many
is.
meetings, because you're a liaison to many groups in town, right? In
Right,
addition to the selectman meetings
Right.
and all the phone calls and emails that you get, or periodically
Right,
that you
and
get.
I am, member of several committees too. The Community Covenant, Military Community Covenant,
Yes,
the
yeah.
Civic Committee. I'm the chairman of the Oak Hill Site Plan Committee, which is hopefully a short-lived committee that will be able to finish that work up fairly soon. But yeah,
Wonderful. And you're a town meeting representative.
That's
Is
correct.
It Precinct 5 still?
Precinct 5. Yeah.
On Elm Street. Wonderful. Well, thanks for being here, Pat.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
And we also have John Kurland with us for the 10th time tonight. John, how are you?
Oh, I finally made double digits.
Double
I'm
digits,
well.
that's a nice thing, because not that many people are in double digits. But so it's great that you're on that. And as everyone knows, you were a selectman for, 3 years, John? You
Right.
decided not to run again.
That's true.
You've been a long-time town meeting representative.
Right, and I was on the Finance
I
Committee
was
for
gonna
about
mention-
8 years. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Any other committees you might want to mention
Um,
that you're currently on?
no, I think I'm just sort of coasting for a little while.
Okay, great. Were you on the group, though, for the grinder pump?
No, I wasn't
You weren't
really.
a member of that group?
No,
I
I
see.
wasn't a member of that group.
I see,
mean,
yeah.
I followed them very
Yeah, yeah,
carefully.
great. 'Cause
Having
you
a grinder pump
You do
myself.
have a grinder
yes.
pump, yeah. How's yours working out, just quickly? Did you ever have any problems with it?
Yes.
Oh, you have?
Yes. So,
Oh, that's too bad.
yeah.
Well, thanks for being here again, John, and I'm looking forward to our discussion. It's always something very interesting when you're on the show. I know when we've had the political debates, you've been a very good contributor to our debates.
Well, that's
that
one
was-
person's opinion. Some people might look at it and say, oh, that Kurland, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Right, Tom?
Well, thanks for being here, John, and we also have Dave McLachlan. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's how you say it.
Yeah, believe it or not, the last time you were on the show, somebody really got into me for mispronouncing your name.
No, I'm used to that.
Yeah,
it
because I
doesn't make
wasn't
doesn't
corrected on
make
the
any
show.
difference.
I had no idea, but it's really supposed to be McLachlan or
Yes.
something. I said McLachlan.
As
I'll
in-
try to
as-
get it
As
right.
in Sarah McLachlan,
Sarah
the singer.
McLachlan, yes,
The singer,
yes.
right?
Any relation?
No,
No.
unfortunately, no.
Yeah, and Dave, this is your 5th time on the show, so
Mm-hmm.
we're getting up there. And as everyone probably knows, Dave is the chairperson or chairman of the Chelmsford Conservation Commission.
Yeah, that's
Dave?
right. I've been on the Conservation Commission about 23 years.
Wow, oh my God, that's a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you still like it, I guess, Dave?
Yeah, some days it's tougher than others,
I
but
can
yeah,
imagine.
no, it's a good initiative.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know, conservation is well worth the time.
Oh, very important. In fact, the Conservation Group controls the Thanksgiving forest, right? Where we're supposed to have a walk tomorrow, even though it might be raining tomorrow,
Right,
the
the
day
thing-
before
right,
Thanksgiving walk. I don't know if you're planning to be there, Dave, but it might be a little bit wet, so I don't expect a huge
As far
crowd.
as I know, it's still on.
It's still on, yes,
Right.
and I checked with Phil as of this morning, Phil Stanway. So, Dave, you're also a town meeting representative,
I've
right?
been a town meeting rep for 10 years,
What precinct?
precinct 6.
Precinct 6, oh yeah, nice. Any other committees that
Yeah,
you might want to
I
mention?
sit with Pat on the Oak Hill site
Right,
plan,
right,
right?
Nice,
And that's the only ones right now.
yeah.
In years past, I was
Oh,
on the
many
I was
times.
on the finance committee.
Oh,
for
well,
example.
like John too, and geez, just Pat and I weren't on the finance committee, I guess.
I guess you better go for that one, Tom.
No, that's fine. I know all the meetings that they do, and I really appreciate all that they put into it. It's a tough committee to be on because of all the meetings, especially before all our Springtown meeting and the Fall Town meetings. Meeting, almost once a week, right, Tom, for the last
Sometimes
couple of
twice
months
a week, yeah.
before. Twice a week even, oh my God. That's the last thing I would want, Pat, sorry.
All right.
I'm not much of a meeting person, which I'll mention maybe later on in the show about the library trustee position that I'm currently on. But I thought we could begin with maybe Pat Wojtas, our selectman on the show tonight. And Pat, I was wondering if you could tell us what's the most important issue or topic in front of the selectmen now, either currently or that you see coming up in the next couple of months?
Well, this time of year is when we start the budget process, and Tom's aware of that. So next month in December, we'll have the first joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee to talk about how the prior budget has worked out, and the town manager will make a presentation about his proposed budget for fiscal year 15. So we'll start talking about that and, capital plan for
Yes.
15. And then it seems before you know it, town meeting is coming up because the warrant has to start to be put in place as of January 6th is the deadline for citizen petitions. So, I mean, that's just over a month away.
Yes, do we have any citizen petitions yet?
Not that I'm
you're
aware of,
Yeah.
although there were a couple that missed the deadline last time, so I'm assuming that the person who was going to bring those forward will be a little bit more
I see.
timely this time.
Because once they miss a deadline, that was it.
That's
They
correct.
couldn't put it in.
That's correct.
So
Yep.
hopefully they'll be on time this year.
You're right, and there may be some others too. I
Maybe
mean,
some- so
John
January
maybe
6th?
No,
will-
no, I'm all set.
Oh, yeah, John had one last fall.
did, yeah.
Petition.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We also have news that Jim Lane has decided not to run for a second term, same as John did. He's going to serve 3 years, and then that will be it.
Right.
And Jim, I think, has done a great job as a selectman. Hopefully all the other selectmen agree to that. And people at home hopefully agree. I know he's worked very hard. Has anybody heard about anybody who might be thinking of running yet for this seat on the board? I haven't in particular. Has anybody?
No,
For
not
Jim
yet,
Lane's,
not yet.
which will be open. In fact, that'll be the only seat up next year,
That's
right,
correct,
in April?
yep.
Nobody's heard of anyone yet?
I've heard of something.
Okay, who's that, Tom?
Pat Maloney?
Oh, yeah, I was speaking to Pat on the phone, but I didn't want to pin him down or, really ask him, but I'm glad somebody has a
Oh,
feeling.
I've heard,
that-
not from him, but I just heard.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he might, as everyone knows, Pat ran recently. He came within, I think, 56 votes of winning.
Yes, he did.
So
Right.
it was very close. I always remember that because that's Joe DiMaggio's consecutive hitting streak record. Do you all remember that? Some of you, and so anyway, 56 is a number easy to remember. So, but anyway, so that's one thing that may be happening. But I guess now's a good time as anyone for me to let people know that I decided on the Board of Library Trustees to serve 3 years rather than 4 years. The first year I was elected for a 1-year term to fill somebody's seat, and then I was elected for another 3-year term. But I thought it's good to serve for 3 years and then allow somebody to run for my 1-year seat, that 1-year seat that will be open. And then you could decide if you would like the Board of Library Trustees, and if so, you could run for another term after that. So I wanted to let anybody who is interested in running for the Board of Library Trustees that there's definitely going to be at least one seat open in April. There are other three-year seats that are coming up, but the incumbents may decide to run again. I don't know yet. They haven't announced that. But the library, as all you know, it's a wonderful town facility. It's one of my favorites, if not the favorite of mine. I use it quite often. Everybody there at the front desk and working at the library is great. So if you're very interested in improving the town library, keeping it the top-notch facility that it is, this is your opportunity in April to run for that seat. So I just wanted to mention that to everyone at home, because I just announced that to the library trustees at our last meeting. The meetings are once a month generally, by the way, for the main board of the library trustees. So, Tom Gilroy, I was wondering about the Finance Committee. Are there
Yes.
any big issues coming up or big
Well,
expenses?
I think there are a couple of big issues. One of the top issues in the town, I think, is the OPEB issue. We have to
Yeah,
address
yeah.
that. Right now, we're trying to find the money to put into the account so we can keep up with where we should be.
Yeah.
That's going to be a challenge, and we're trying to, find something in the budget where we can do that.
Yeah.
We've been challenged to try to find about $1 million in the budget. I haven't seen all of the budgets yet, all the capital budgets. We've only seen a few. Hopefully, there may be something in there we can defer from this year till next year, or maybe the following year, and that way, maybe having a little money in there for a little bit. But of course, people are also concerned about the new tax rate that was just announced,
Yes, I saw that
which
in
is
the
going
little
to
sign.
which is going to probably affect everybody by at least an average of $320 per person, which is a sizable increase for many people. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a topic that people are going to be talking about, I'm sure,
Yes.
between now and town meeting and now in the elections as well.
Yes. Yeah, there was an article, in the Lowell Sun
Lowell
this
Sun,
week. I
just
posted
the other
it
night, yes.
on the Chelmsford Reps and
Right.
Residents group. But you know what surprised me? I don't think anybody commented under that post and the Reps and Residents.
Right.
Not one comment, I think, so far. But because it was a little bit out of the ordinary increase that
Right.
they're expecting. You said over $300. Usually,
$320,
we
right.
don't have that kind of increase per household.
Well, it's a 5.5% increase.
Yeah,
That's substantial. Now,
substantial.
and of course, the other item that we have to, as yet discuss and determine is the grinder pump issue.
Yes.
I am on the grinder pump committee as a representative from the finance committee.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure who the other members are going to be yet. I think the deadline for the submissions is tomorrow, I
Today.
believe. Is it today?
Yeah, actually today, yeah.
So, that'll be determined when they go through the applications, and then we'll have to decide how we're going to do that. There's a lot of research to be done,
Yes.
and I
yeah.
think to be fair to everybody, I think it's got to be look at both sides of it and find out,
Yes.
what the town can do about it, if
Yes.
anything.
That's a very important committee.
and
And
it's-
it's going to be a 9-person committee. I
Yes.
think there'll be one selectman on the
Yes.
committee, too?
Yes.
I
maybe
don't know.
you don't
I-
know.
I
I
mean,
I believe there's supposed to be one
Supposed to be.
one
No.
selectman.
No,
No?
the town meeting said it had to be a finance committee
Oh,
person,
okay.
a sewer fairness alliance person,
Okay. so
a
not select-
DPW person, and then 6 others.
Okay,
Oh, I
all right.
thought
There was no,
Right, okay.
no mention of specifically of a selectman. I mean, a selectman could apply, obviously.
yes, yeah. Well, it's very important, and they're supposed to come up, I think, with some sort of recommendations
Yes, for the
and/or report for the spring
For
town
the
meeting.
spring town meeting, right.
That's
And,
that's a
so-
tight
And it's tight.
timeline.
Tight schedule, I know, because
Extremely.
I was
It's
thinking a lot about that at town
It's-
meeting.
it's really
We
only 4
voted
months.
on that.
Yeah.
4 months.
I know, yeah, so that's going to be a good committee to be on. I guess it's too late now to apply, right, because the applications
Too
were
late.
due by today, right? So no
Yeah.
sense announcing that at the
Right,
moment, but
yeah, right.
hopefully they have enough
I
applicants.
thought the primary purpose was to try to sort through the data that's been presented by both sides, because a lot of the data that was presented was quite different, depending on who you heard it from.
Yeah.
So there was, at least at town meeting, there was a lot of uncertainty as to, is DPW right, or is the Fairness Alliance correct?
Well, I think that's why it's going to take a while
Right,
to get through that.
because there is a lot of data,
I
right?
would say
So
it would be a
forward.
challenge to have something ready by
Yeah.
Springtown
Well,
meeting.
the Sewer Alliance Committee did a lot of legwork, and Paul did some. There were some numbers that I found problematic. For example, there was an assumption that nobody who has grinder pumps has generators. And the numbers that they've come up with is that of over the 500 households that have grinder pumps, we're just talking about single-family residences, all but 170 of them have generators.
Yeah.
So when you factor that in, the assumption at town meeting was, well, we have to deal with 500
Yes.
potential generator issues. So I think that the numbers are going to skew a lot lower
Yes.
than what some of the other numbers were.
Well,
Yes.
although I will say that I think the initial focus of the committee has nothing to do with grinder pumps, has nothing, I mean,
Right.
not with generators, has nothing to do
No.
with what happens when the power goes out. It has to do with the replacement and the maintenance of the
That's certainly where it started, right?
The-
Right, but
That
in the
itself.
DPW presentation, they were talking about 500 generators, and nobody ever asked for generators. Well,
Right.
they just wanted some indication that if there was a town-wide outage for a long period of time, and this has happened in the past, the DPW would send trucks out with generators, and they could start the grinder pump up so it could get rid of the waste, so it wouldn't overflow, and people could use their facilities. And if there's only 170 households, hopefully, you know, we won't have a big problem with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Tom, you also have a new chairperson at the Finance Committee, right?
Yes, we do, Sheila Pichette. Right?
Sheila Pichette's your
Yeah.
chairperson,
She
been
is,
elected, right?
yes,
And
she has.
So Patrice Garvin went over, she's the town administrator of Shirley now,
Shirley,
right?
right, yes.
In fact, if you read in today's Lowell Sun, there was a little article about Shirley and the selectmen, and it mentioned the town administrator, and nobody else saw that? Or
I did
Pat
see
saw
that.
it? Yeah, very interesting. I was looking for Patrice's name, but it wasn't
Yeah.
there yet today, so I didn't post it. But I hope she'll do a great job. It's a small town. I think I read it was like 6,000 people or something,
It is-
right?
it is
Something
small, yeah.
approximately. But I think that's great for Patrice, and she did a great job
she's
at the
good.
Finance Committee, so everybody was pleased to see that somebody from Chelmsford is going to be their town administrator.
Well, there's a lot of people from Chelmsford who are town managers and administrators.
No, we saw, unfortunately, we saw Carrie Spidell on the news the other night, because
Right.
she's a town manager at
Lunenburg.
wherever that kid was. That
Yeah.
was
Lunenburg.
Lunenburg, right. She's town manager at Lunenburg.
Right.
And she used to be assistant treasurer?
Right. Well,
A treasurer, too?
No?
I'm trying to remember exactly what her title was.
Oh,
but
I
she
think
was-
she
don't
was a
remember.
treasurer, John. I
Yeah,
think-
yeah, and she
then-
was
yes.
the interim town manager
Interim town
between
manager when
Bernie
there was a short.
and Paul,
Right.
yes.
Yes, but prior to that, she was a treasurer, I believe, so she kind of
Right.
was the highest ranking, whatever, to move up.
We
to
must
the
train
in-
them, we must train them well. Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
There's also another fellow in Northborough that used to be
Yes.
Bernie's assistant.
Yes.
Andy
Long time.
Andy
Is he-
Sheehan?
No,
No.
no,
No,
no.
no.
Not
Oh,
Andy.
he's a
No,
town
but
administrator
Andy's
as
another,
well.
no, but
Right.
you're right,
John,
Tom.
is it-
Yeah,
John
John,
Coderre?
Yeah,
Yes,
John
yes.
Is he
Coderre.
still
Oh,
there?
John,
He's very,
yeah.
he's very good.
He's
He's
right.
excellent, yes.
He's been
Yeah,
there long, he's been there quite a while.
John and Andy Sheehan,
Yeah,
of course.
I
did a
attended
great
a,
job.
I attended a meeting one, down in, I can't remember what it was, down near Foxborough for Finance Committee members, and he gave a presentation, and he was very impressive.
Oh, wonderful.
Did a good job,
Wonderful,
yes.
geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, we must train them well here in Chelmsford, as you said, John, right? But Dave, I was wondering if you could let us know what's happening with the Conservation Commission lately
Sure.
and upcoming, maybe?
A lot of our work is cyclical because it goes with the economy. We're seeing a lot more requests before the Conservation Commission for people who are building additions on their homes, people building swimming pools. Remember, our jurisdiction is within 100 feet of the wetlands, so if anybody has any activity in their yard or in their house
Yes.
that's in that area, then we see it.
Yeah.
And it's a sign that I think the economy's picking up a bit in Chelmsford. We haven't seen any big projects. We won't see the 40B project on Mill Road because it's on dry land, so.
Oh, so that won't come
No,
before
no,
you at
no.
all? as
No,
far-
it's only activity within 100 feet of the wetlands,
Oh,
even though
yeah.
the name of the committee is the Conservation Commission.
Yes, yes.
So our activity is picked up there. And in the various reservations, as Pat said, the Oak Hill Site Plan Committee is doing some work to determine where there's going to be a parking lot off of Swain Road, which will probably be right at the entrance to the North Chelmsford DPW site,
I see.
and on the left, and then where there'll have to be a trail from there into Oak Hill itself.
When
So-
do you think that might be done?
Well,
Dave?
work
The
ex-
parking lot?
Oh, well, the parking lot won't be done, I don't think, until our committee says that's where the parking lot should go.
Yeah.
DPW has said they'll build it.
Okay,
So probably in the spring.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Maybe in the
expect
spring
before
or
this.
some- or
Yeah.
something.
And here
So
again,
good,
it depends
good,
on
that's
where
good.
it will be on their priority.
Yeah.
The big reservation, or the big issue at one reservation is at Crooked Spring. You remember the water all drained out of the pond.
Yeah.
Because there's what's called a low-level outlet at that dam, which historically allows people who manage the dam to drain the water out if they need to do maintenance.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
that low-level outlet is about a 75-foot pipe that goes under the dam, and somewhere under the dam,
Yes.
it broke,
Oh,
and that's what drained all the water out.
oh,
So we've got to address what has to be done, and there are a number of options, and this gives us an opportunity to say, do we want to do nothing?
yeah,
Do we want to rebuild the dam?
yeah.
Do we want to tear the dam down and turn it back into a stream, which it originally was back in the 20s?
Oh, why was it dammed up? Do you
It
know?
was privately owned, and it was a rod and gun club, probably not unlike the one that's at the Lowell Sportsman's Club.
Yeah.
And I suspect that they put the dam there in order to create a pond so they could go duck hunting,
Yeah,
or they could go,
attract
they could go fishing.
Yes, yes.
And then
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
and then eventually, either I don't know whether they sold it to the town or they turned it over to the town.
Yeah.
The other thing in that, not to dwell on it too long, but it might give us an opportunity to dredge the pond if that were an option.
Yeah.
Originally, when our history says there was maybe 5 to 6 feet of water, when the dam gave, when the low-level outlet gave way, there's only maybe as much 1 to 3 feet, and it's all siltation that's come down
Yeah.
the stream, and it's in part the stream that's here by the school.
Oh, yeah.
If you're gonna get rid of the siltation, a good time to do it is when there's no water there.
Yes, yeah.
But on the scale of cost, that's probably the most expensive.
Yes, yeah.
So we're going to CPC this fall to request some consulting dollars to try to understand what can be done,
Yes.
how can it be done, and what is it going to cost,
Yeah.
so that
So that's a
we can then begin to make some choices.
Nice. That's a big- what else is happening?
Well, then out of the cranberry bog, the big issue there, and a lot of people in Chelmsford may not realize it, but the cranberry bog on the Carlisle side is an operating cranberry farm. And they have a lease with a private farmer. That lease expires in 2015. So Carlisle has started to discuss, are they going to renew the lease and what its term's going to be. The problem is that the money you get from a cranberry crop is not very good these days. Prices have come down over the last 15 or 20 years because of the big industrial cranberry bogs down in southeast Massachusetts and also in the upper Midwest.
Yeah.
So,
Reduce the prices because of increased supply.
so Mark Duffy, who runs the cranberry bog, has not been making much money. Well, the interesting thing here is there's a history there, right?
Yeah.
Water rights go to the cranberry bog so long as they're producing cranberries. So if Carlisle can't or chooses not to renew that lease,
Yes.
it's going to affect the water rights in some way, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Well, the upper part of that cranberry bog is in Chelmsford,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we've got open water up there, so it will affect. If they don't renew that lease, it will affect Chelmsford in some way.
Doesn't that
Yes,
water
yeah.
ultimately go to the Concord River?
When
When it goes out the end there?
Well, it goes out the end, it goes down through Mill Pond,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
under Route 4,
Route 4, yeah.
and then then goes down where the Chelmsford Water District is.
Right.
It's in the Concord River water basin.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's a,
And then the fourth
huge
one just
one.
is we fixed up the parking lot at Red Wing Farm. We
Yes, yeah.
took down a lot of the old fencing, and we got rid of a lot of the heavy barbed wire that was there. We put in a new fence
Nice post and
from the
beam
street.
fence or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
well,
It looks nice.
the same style that was there before, because the one on Bob Morse's side is that style, and
Yes,
we wanted to keep that style.
Looks good.
Rebuilt a stone wall at the front that had fallen apart.
Yeah.
Regraded the parking lot, made an extra 1 or 2 parking spaces.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've noticed is that people use that parking lot for the bike trail,
The bike trail,
because
which is
it's
good.
only
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
hundred yards. So
Yeah.
that parking lot gets a lot more use than Red Wing Farm does
Yes. Yeah.
because of that.
The Red Wing Farm doesn't get too much use at all, right?
Well, it's a
But-
relatively small reservation. It gets
Yeah.
it gets some.
Can the Boy Scouts still camp there, by the way, or anything?
They have.
They have, yeah.
They tend to either camp out at Russell Mill
Yeah.
on the soccer fields when soccer's not being played.
Oh, that's good.
Or they use Red Wing Farm.
Yeah, because they have some nice trees back there in Red Wing Farm.
Yep.
It's a beautiful spot there.
Yep. Well,
Oh.
it used to be it was a working farm years ago.
Wow.
And there's also a lot of bluebird houses
Oh,
out
yeah,
in the back.
yeah,
there,
the
too.
lady who loves bluebirds.
bluebird lady.
But the
I
yeah,
can't pronounce her last name. That's
I, don't,
right.
I can't
That-
either, yeah. Well, that's great, Dave. Thanks for the update, and thanks for serving on the committee all those years. It's not easy going to all those meetings and answering all those emails.
It's not as bad as finance.
Oh,
but-
that's a lot too. Yeah, very, and selectmen too, and town meeting rep as well. And we appreciate all that everybody does for all these committees in town. John, any thoughts about the town moderator has a new committee, a 9-person committee, 1 from each precinct, to come to be called an advisory committee to the town moderator for maybe some potential changes or updates at our formal town meetings in the spring and the fall. So Dick DeFreitas, our current town moderator, asked that this committee be formed, and each precinct voted in their representatives. So we have them, and we have a chairperson that's been voted in for that, Mike McCall.
Right.
So any thoughts about this, John, this committee and/or town moderator, how things have been going or anything?
Well,
Like that?
It's a tough question. I think that it's not a bad idea to review the processes that we have in our town to see if they can become more user friendly. On the other hand, it's important that town meeting be transparent, that the town meeting reps and the general public have the right to know what's going on, what we're voting on, why we're voting the way that we're voting, so that question and answers and debate should be, relatively unlimited. I mean, it can go overboard, but I don't think it's been abused in the past a great deal. So I'm anxious to see what the committee comes up with as far as recommendations. And then logistically, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. Will town meeting be voting on the changes that are recommended? If Mr. DeFreitas remains as the town moderator, or if someone else is elected town moderator, will that moderator be, if it's a new one, be bound by the recommendations, or will that new moderator even embrace the recommendations? Town meeting has run relatively smoothly for years, okay? And we had a very difficult fall town meeting because we had a very complicated and contentious issue, and which took up a lot of time. And people, and to the credit of the town meeting reps, they wanted to get as much information as possible, and they wanted to ask questions. And I think that the questions that were asked were appropriate questions. I don't think there was a lot of grandstanding and people, getting up and speechifying. But when it came down to it, there was just such a vast amount of data that, the town meeting reps basically said, let's form this committee and let's try to get some consensus on what data is actually out there that is not in dispute.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because we had really a lot of different numbers from different sources.
I see, yes. And you mentioned the town moderator position is an elected position, I think, for a 3-year term. It's coming up again this April that Dick DeFreitas is completing his first term. And I believe, upon speaking to Dick, that he is interested in running for town moderator again. It'll be interesting to see if there's anybody running. There may be for that seat as well, maybe 1, 2, or 3 people, who knows, or maybe no one. We don't know yet.
Well, there'll be at least one.
You mean,
Dick
I
will
meant in
be
addition
running.
I meant in addition to Dick, because he said he's going to run. So I think in January, the papers, you could start pulling papers, right? And then it'll be notified, like for the library trustee position, the selectman position, et cetera. You could see what are the open seats or what seats are up for re-election. And then people could pull papers. And for local town meeting rep, it's 25 signatures. And town-wide, it's 50 signatures you need from throughout the town. So good luck with everybody, and start thinking, because we're almost in December. So start thinking about these offices that you might want to run for.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we could have, more than one contested race. It seems that always, the selectmen's race is usually contested, but very few others are. And I think it would really be good, for democracy and for the town if we'd have some contested races. Maybe for moderator, maybe for school committee. I know there's some issues there now. So that would be good. And maybe even for the library trustee. Who knows?
Yeah, I hope so.
I think that's part of history, because years ago we had probably more contested seats.
We did, yeah.
And local politics is become a little bit tougher, and I think, and also when you look at the family today, so many families have 2 people working.
Yes.
The amount of time that's available to be an elected official is less, and I think it's. I agree with you, Pat, but I don't. It's not. We're not going to see a lot of people running for office. John's comment about town meeting and the moderator. Before Dick, Dennis McHugh was moderator for at least 20 years.
25, yeah.
He formed a committee. I don't know how far into his tour, that took a look at the regulations and the procedures for town meeting. And that committee made some recommended changes, I believe, to town meeting that Dennis then, and I agree with, I don't know whether Dennis adopted them or town meeting did. But we had those regulations for at least 15 years, I would guess.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been since the last couple of years that town meeting has kind of needs more oil in the system. You know, the process today is not the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And maybe the changes that have been made are not changes that we should have made.
Yes,
Maybe we should have looked at, if it wasn't broken, don't fix it, right?
Or maybe incremental changes
Yes.
rather
Right.
than, some of them seem rather dramatic, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Well, the other thing is that we went from an open town meeting to a representative town
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't know
and that
whether,
changes.
right, I don't know whether Dennis was moderator when we had that, certainly Dan Coughlin
Danny
was.
Coughlin was, I think. I
Yeah,
think
but he
He
was.
came in, yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis
So
did.
during
He was
his,
original.
during his tour, we switched to
That's correct.
representative.
Yes, 1989, I believe it was, when we switched
Right.
to which I like representative town meeting, by the way. I think it's working very well. Well, any other comments about anything that's been said locally before we get on to the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare? No? Okay. So we move on to that. To introduce this, I just want to read one paragraph from, some of you may know the writer for the New York Times named Joe Nocera. He wrote a column recently about the Affordable Care Act. And I thought this would be a good introduction because it kind of summarizes a little bit of what's been going on with Obamacare. As all of you know, it was about a month ago that the Affordable Care Act had a website, healthcare.gov, which was supposed to come online. And it was a big fiasco because it didn't work. It didn't work well. It didn't work at all. A lot of people got thrown out of their existing plans because the Affordable Care Act mandates they have to have certain minimums. So the people who had certain health care plans received letters, millions of people throughout the country saying, no, you no longer have insurance with us, you have to go get insurance elsewhere, or you look at our other plans. So anyway, the Affordable Care Act website is supposed to be fixed by the end of this month, by the end of November. However, it now looks like it's not going to happen. It is better now. Some people are able to start getting signed up. But it's not going to be fixed by November 30th. So what Joe Nocera wrote in this one paragraph, he says, so far at least, the implementation of the Affordable Care Act has been President Obama's Bay of Pigs, and that's, of course, referring to President Kennedy's Bay of Pigs fiasco. Led to believe that the preparation for Obamacare was on track, Obama was blindsided when that turned out not to be the case. The website where people are supposed to enroll, healthcare.gov, is a train wreck. People with individual policies saw that they were set to be canceled and then couldn't enroll in Obamacare because the website had collapsed. In other cases, people discovered that even the least expensive plan available to them under Obamacare cost more than their old plan, and on and on. So that's a little paragraph that I think summarizes kind of what's going on with Obamacare. And I wondered, since all of these people are interested, I think, in national issues, any thoughts about this, what's going on with Obamacare?
How much time do you have?
How much time do you have?
Well, let's start now.
You
We
know,
got plenty of
it's
time.
interesting. I heard today that the Massachusetts computer system that used to work
It's not working.
extremely well
Yeah.
is now screwed up because they had to rewrite it to interface
Oh
with
my
the
God.
software
Yeah.
at the federal level.
Yeah, jeez.
The one comment, I read Nocera a lot because I
Yeah,
like him.
I do too, yeah.
Particularly his stands on other issues. But the one thing that he said, or you quoted, that I think is inexcusable is that the CEO of this country didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, to me, that's always a sign that an organization is too big.
Yeah, yeah.
That when the CEO doesn't have a handle, and that's, to me, that's unconscionable that he would put something in that has such a huge impact on
Yes.
so many people's lives
Yes. Yeah.
without knowing.
Yeah.
Now that has nothing to do with what I might feel about the underlying insurance part of it.
Yes.
The administrative part is terrible.
Yes.
And I don't think they're going to have it fixed
Well,
by
the
the
oth-
end of
the other
October.
thing
I
is
mean,
that there was
that's-
just a news report that there were 18 hacks into the system to sabotage the
Oh
system.
my God.
So there are people out there who want it to fail,
Yeah.
and they're attacking the system. And so there's, which I guess is, Look, the reality is that the system was never a great system. I did not like the system that was passed
Yeah.
because it wasn't a single payer system,
Yeah,
okay?
I agree.
Well, you're laughing, Tom, but truly, if it had been a single payer system and if people said, this is going to be basically the same as Medicare for everyone, and you can enroll, the philosophy behind it is that there are a lot of young people who don't have insurance,
Yes,
and that
yes.
if they signed up for insurance, because they would not have a large claims base, that the people who really need it more
Yes.
would have affordable insurance because it would keep the cost down.
Yes.
But he couldn't pass that type of legislation. The insurance companies sort of wanted to be involved. I think the other mistake that he made, to be honest with you, was by telling everybody that you could keep your own insurance.
Oh, yes, many times.
And what he should have said is, if your insurance is so horrible that when you need it the most, it's going to abandon you, and we have standards, you're going to have to get into our insurance because we want you to be insured when you really need it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And there are so many instances of people who have had devastating medical problems and their insurance just walks away from them and
Which is
they're
terrible,
up
yeah.
the creek. And
Yes.
and that was, or people with pre-existing conditions who lose their job, now they get another job and they apply for the insurance there and the insurance says, well, we're not going to cover you. And it can be anything. It can be
Yes.
sleep apnea.
Yes.
Okay, well, you have sleep apnea, we're not going to cover you, even though
Yeah.
that's not a high maintenance type of medical problem.
Yes.
So it's definitely problematic, and
yeah.
and you know, hopefully it will get on track and people will begin to realize that you're right. The horrible insurances that really don't do anything
Yeah.
are cheap,
Yes.
and you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And if you can get much better coverage and it costs you a few dollars more,
Yeah.
and you know, there are a few states where they've implemented it and it's doing very well. I think Kentucky's one of them. I think there's another.
You mean the new federal system
Yes,
as opposed to?
yes.
I mean, the Massachusetts system was fine, worked fine.
Right.
Yeah, it was
If you're
working
talking,
fine.
there's really two questions. One is, how do you make the system work? And the other is the system right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And certainly the single payer system that we have, Medicare, the system works.
And it's
Right.
also
Yes.
Right.
easier to apply for.
Right, but
Yeah.
that's not, I'm not commenting on whether or not the coverage is appropriate, but the system works.
Yes.
And when you look at Amazon.com, you look at eBay, you look at all of the big,
How they work.
how they work.
Yeah.
I mean, why the heck we couldn't have used their expertise in some
Yes,
shape or
yeah.
form, right?
I gotta interject something here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
First of all, I have to compliment John. He's got the talking points down perfect
Yeah.
for what I've been hearing from the other side. First of all, and most important, if any CEO had lied the way Obama lied for all those years, he would have been indicted and he would be in jail. It's an absolute crime what he did to the American people.
Are you talking about Obamacare?
I'm talking
He's
about
talking about him
Obamacare.
saying
He
that if you
lied,
like your
that we can keep our insurance, we can keep your doctor. The fact of the matter is that probably every one of us, whether we have a private plan or a retirement plan,
Yes.
is probably going to lose our insurance because somebody in the government says that plan doesn't meet our standards. I don't need maternity care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need birth control pills.
Yeah.
I don't need acupuncture.
Yeah.
And all of the 10 items that are in there. And the fact of the matter is that the government is telling the insurance companies what must be in their plan, and if they don't meet those criteria, they have to cancel it.
Yeah.
Now, that's wrong.
Yeah.
The government cannot run anything but the military. Everything else is
Well,
a
I'm
disaster.
not so sure they can run the
Well,
military, but
we've done fairly well, okay?
Yeah.
And the other fact is that right now, we have a system where people are in a quandary. Insurance is very important to most people.
Yes.
And the insurance that they have is the insurance that they like.
Yeah.
We were told that there were 15 to 30 million people that needed insurance, and we got to get those people on the plan. Now, the fact is, a lot of those people are going to be on Medicaid.
Yeah.
And who pays for Medicaid? We do.
Yes.
If we go to the single-payer system, what happens to the insurance industry? It collapses. How many jobs will be lost? the single-payer plan will be an absolute huge job loss to this country, because the insurance companies go out of business.
I disagree, Tom. I think what happens is that the insurance companies become a lot more competitive price-wise, and you don't have CEOs making $40 or $50 million and getting all these golden parachutes when they retire. What happens is you've got a government plan that, and in England, and I hate to use England
It's a
because England
disaster.
is not a good option, is not a good analysis, but it is for this purpose. In England, you've got people who can get private insurance, and they're treated a certain way because they pay for it. And then they also have the public insurance, where they get the care and it doesn't cost them anything, or it costs them very little. Now, there are a lot of other plans. We're the only industrialized nation that does not provide have a system for universal health insurance to cover all of our people. And when you say, well, Medicaid we pay for, we also pay for everybody who goes to the emergency room who has no insurance. Right. And emergency room care, and even Mitt Romney admitted this when he passed Romney Care. He said it's a lot more expensive for people to go to the emergency room and receive the care there than to go to a private physician's office and get the care there. So there are opportunities for cost savings. And again, there are a lot of things that I don't like about Obamacare or ACA, but the reality is that we have to do something about our health insurance, because the cost of health insurance is well exceeding the cost of the normal cost of increases that we have for inflation.
It's going to be more expensive. It's not going to be cheaper. It's going to be more
No,
expensive.
and
Yes.
the other thing, Tom,
No.
and what bothers me is that you can go and buy medications that are equally effective and sometimes the same manufacturer in Canada, in Mexico, in Europe for a fraction of the cost of what we pay for
but
here.
John, the government sets the price. That's why you can do it.
But that's the problem. That's the problem.
It's not
And we
set
pay
by,
for the R&D.
it's not, yeah. I mean,
Well, the reality is that our insurance system and our healthcare system is really run by the insurance companies.
But it was the
at this
best in
point.
the world. It always has been. They
No,
come
no.
here.
The quality of care was good. The coverage was horrible.
What is it, like 19-20% of gross domestic product goes
It's
to?
1/6
to
of
health.
1/6 of the economy is health insurance.
Yes, yes.
Well, it's
1/6 is-
healthcare,
1/6
of
is
which
about what?
insurance is a big
17%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's over 40 million Americans, right, who are uninsured, right? They don't have health insurance.
But some people
and
don't
that's
want
the
insurance.
problem that I think.
Yeah, but that defeats the purpose of what insurance is all about.
Yeah.
Insurance is to spread the risk over a broad base.
That's right.
And everybody should be paying something for health insurance.
Yeah.
Because then the costs are spread over.
But should it be a
Yes.
redistribution of wealth, though? That's the other thing.
Well, but think of what the definition of insurance is.
I
I
know
mean,
what it is,
that's
yeah.
what, you know, my insurance premiums went down. We've got a Blue Cross Blue Shield supplemental on top of Medicare. They just dropped my rates 5.5%.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And I'm saying that's competition, because why would they normally, on their own? I didn't even ask for it. I mean, it showed up in,
Yeah,
it
oh,
showed
yeah,
up in a letter. And I think they're doing it because they're afraid that people are starting to shop. People, particularly people that have good product, that they're
Yes.
starting to
But
shop.
you should be able to shop across
No,
state lines.
no, I don't disagree
even across
with you.
state lines, but that's not allowed right now. You can't do that.
I
And
agree.
there should be
I'd
tort
get
reform.
competition.
I know you don't like that, but that would cut the cost of insurance considerably, because look
I think
at
you
the
would feel a lot
premiums.
differently, Tom,
If you're on the other side.
if somebody had botched a relatively routine
saying
procedure with
reform.
you and it crippled you, and now you're getting nothing to survive.
I'm not saying do away with lawsuits. I'm saying tort reform.
Yeah.
But that's what the conservatives mean when they say tort reform. They always say it's tort reform, tort reform, tort reform. But when it happens to you, you are grateful to the fact that if you're crippled or if your child is born with some horrible birth defect because someone messed up somewhere along the line, that person is protected and covered and has the benefits that they need to live a productive life.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Well, I think, any other, Pat, I don't think mentioned, any comments?
Well, I think the intent was a good one. The implementation obviously has not worked.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is demand, because that's why the implementation went so poorly. So
Yeah.
I hope something, I hope it can be corrected so that people that do need the insurance are able to get to
Yes.
it the way that they should be able to.
Yeah. Well, David, I don't know if you watch the PBS NewsHour on Fridays when David Brooks speaks, and also somebody from more of a Democratic side speak, and they discuss the issues.
Don't
And
miss it.
David Brooks is a Democrat.
No, he's good. He's a good Republican.
Yeah, he's a good Republican,
a
I
good
think.
Republican.
I like David Brooks a lot. He writes for the New York Times.
Now we know
as
why Tom
knows.
isn't on the Republican Town Committee anymore.
So David Brooks mentioned something which was very interesting about this Affordable Care Act, that with the problems people are having signing up, and a lot of young people aren't signing up, as John was saying, they were hopefully going to enroll so that they could keep the premiums down for everybody. And as the people get older, they're the ones that the costs are going to be really high. They're the first ones who are going to sign up. The older people, those who have health conditions, and those who are just going to go directly into Medicaid. That is, it's all going to be supplemented, or most of it, by the government. And a lot of people are signing up for that already. The problem is getting the people who are healthy to sign up so those premiums will help supplement these other people. Now, David Brooks said if these young people, healthy people, don't sign up, it might be a snowball effect because the
Yep.
insurance rates for the
Gonna go up.
for the other people would have to go up so much, and for the younger people who do sign up, that they'll be more reluctant to sign up. They'll pay the penalties. So over the next year or two, this whole thing might collapse. Basically, is what his point was. We don't know yet, of course, but it might.
As the amount of money in the risk pool goes up, the rates go down.
The rates go down.
Okay, that's-
And if the
that's
money
simple.
doesn't go in the risk pool, the rates for
rates
those
gonna
who
go
buy
up.
the insurance
Sure.
goes up.
70 to 80% of your personal health care is spent in the last 9 months of life.
Of course it is.
Yes, yeah,
So
exactly.
you know,
And that's where-
young kids are
Yeah,
going to say, "What do I need it for?"
yeah,
right?
exactly.
But the
On the other
So-
hand, the law did increase the eligibility age for parents to provide coverage for their children
Up
to
to
age 26.
26.
Yes.
And most people took advantage of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so hopefully at age 26 or 27, when you turn 26, you can't be on it any longer. They will be in the workforce, and they will recognize the importance of health insurance, and they will get it.
I hope so, John. But my quick summary, my take on this is, with 40+ million Americans, I think there's 45 that don't have health insurance. I think we as a country need to decide whether we want to cover them all, like all the other industrial countries, as John mentioned, cover everybody. They have some sort of health insurance. We have to make a decision if we want that or if we don't. If we don't, maybe we could have stuck with just the system that we had, where they would go to emergency rooms, and a lot of lower income people just wouldn't have really great health care because they were just going when they're very sick, and that kind of thing. So either we have the current system, or I think the best way to go, if we want to cover everybody, and I know Tom would disagree with this, John mentioned earlier the Medicare system, and I think we could start with, now it's 65 and above. For example, I'm on Medicare at the moment. It's working great, no problems.
How did you get in? Because you're under 65, Tom.
Right. I know. And then I think they could start, and I think big changes should happen in a more incremental way. So I would recommend starting from 60 to 65 over 1 year. That's if we want to start covering everybody. Then the next year, go from 55 to 60, cover that group, and keep going down.
Medicare?
Medicare. So it would be covering everybody.
So
No.
end up at a universal.
At a universal, yeah, I'm talking about, if we want to cover everybody, I do think that's the best way to go, because we have less bureaucracy, we have less of these.
That's single payer. That's what
Yeah,
that is.
single payer, right.
Universal health
But
coverage.
I'm
is
saying it
different.
would be expensive, Tom, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it would be cheap, I'm not saying we'll save money, but we as a country need to make that decision. But right now, there's a big split whether we want to do that, between maybe half of the country wants to cover everybody and the other half doesn't. And that's why we in a democracy are having huge problems with a
Not
big issue
democracy,
like
it's a
this.
constitutional republic. Don't ever forget that.
Oh, right, it's not a direct
constitutional
democracy.
republic, right.
Democracy, yes.
It's not a
That
democracy.
way we're protecting the minorities, right? But anyway, that's the way I see it now, and I don't know, obviously, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but I think this has been a big fiasco. I do think, as Dave mentioned, that the president should have been aware of these things before he made the statement over 37 times that if you like your insurance, you could keep it, which helped this get passed. I hate to say it, but my idea is he didn't really know what was going on, and that's another problem right there. I don't think he came right out and lied. I just don't think he was given the information. Now, Catherine Sebelius, the head of Health and Human Services, I think she should be held responsible for what went on there. Prior to this thing being rolled out, she was out making speeches, everyone talking about it. She should have been in the trenches there, making sure they had good people, maybe from Amazon.com or wherever, people who could program computers to get this thing working properly before it was rolled out. So I think she should be held responsible, and at least one head should roll on this. But anyway, that's my personal
Well,
opinion
let
on
me
that.
ask you this question, Tom. Let's assume that this report that I read, that there have been at least 18 cyber attacks on this website to make it fail.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen failures. We've seen hacks on the most secure websites. Some of the banks, some of the lending institutions, some of the commercial industries, and all of a sudden you have to get, if you're on Google, if you had a Google account or Adobe, if you had an Adobe account and you would use your credit card, now you have to get in touch with the authorities because your information was hacked. If these secure websites, which are as secure supposedly as they can be hacked, then we have a real serious problem.
Yeah.
And if people were hacking this website to make it fail, okay, that's another problem. And how do you address that?
Yes.
Could I ask what your resource was for that, please?
There was a article in the news that I saw. 18 different, and they're looking to prosecute them as cyber terrorists.
Well, you were making the implication that they were hacking to fail. I think that hacks aren't necessarily to fail. Hacks are to gain information, usually.
Right.
And I think
yeah.
that the information to be gained can be very, very damaging to the individuals.
Yes.
The security analysts have said that this whole system is very, very unsecure and prone to
Yes.
hacking.
Yes.
So I think that obviously there have been a lot of hacks, but the implication that these hacks
Yep.
are being done by these dirty conservative Republicans
I
to
never
make
said
it fail.
that.
Well, I know you didn't,
But
that
Tom,
was the implication.
Tom, if they really wanted to get the information, then they would wait until people could put the information into the system and then hack it out.
Yeah.
And the hacks that I've been reading about were to make the system fail.
Yeah. But John, and I think Tom was correct in the sense that this system was also rolled out prior to it being secure. It was very insecure. A lot of people's social security numbers and personal health information was out there for people to see so readily. And so it was terrible. It should have never been rolled out. I'm very disappointed with the president and the administration and what happened with this.
I'm not
And I
disagreeing
have
with you,
been a
but
supporter of President Obama up to this point
but
in
I don't
time.
think we have the whole story yet.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
point.
And I can't believe how much time is going by because we only have 5 minutes left and we got some really big issues to cover. But why don't we cover the one I enjoyed talking a lot about, which is Christie and the potential presidential election in 2016. Now, I know it's early, but Christie was just reelected in New Jersey this month. And the thing is, he's a Republican in an overwhelmingly Democratic state. They have about 700,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. But yet, Christie, for re-election, received 66% of the independents who voted. 32% of Democrats voted for a Republican for governor. 51% of Hispanics, which is huge for a Republican to get 51% of the Hispanic vote and 21% of the African American vote. So soon after he won this basically landslide over a state Senate Democratic candidate for governor, so she was a credible candidate, she had experience in politics. So right away, everybody on the talk shows, political talk shows, talking about Christie as a potential candidate for 2016. There's also people like Ted Cruz being talked about, the Senator Rand Paul, Hillary Clinton for the Democrats. And some of you also hear and read what I do about Elizabeth Warren also being named as a potential candidate. Even though she hasn't mentioned she's interested, a lot of people would love to see Elizabeth Warren run. So my question to you all is, just quickly, because this is enjoyable and I love talking about it, what do you think about any of these individuals or 2016 thus far? Any comments?
Well, I think Chris Christie, you and I both saw him at Harvard. We went to
Yes,
that
yeah, that was
last
great.
year. And he speaks very well, and he's a great speaker. He doesn't use many notes. He doesn't use a teleprompter and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that he's a very good Republican,
No?
and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Okay, he's for illegal immigration.
Okay.
He's anti-gun. He's anti-gun.
What do you mean he's anti-gun?
He-
Because he
he is-
wanted to
he's
ban
an-
like
he's-
a...
Yes, he's anti-gun, he's anti-Second Amendment, okay? All right? He's pro-abortion, okay? Those are three things.
No, are you sure he's
He's
pro-abortion?
He's pro-abortion.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
I have my doubts, but go ahead.
Okay, well, he is, okay?
Okay.
And I think the other thing is that, just like John McCain was a darling of all the newspapers until he ran,
Yeah.
and then, boy, they will go after him with such vigor, and they will demonize him.
Yeah.
You won't be the same person. And the other thing is, he was a huge lobbyist
Okay.
for Bernie Madoff.
Well, I don't know
He
about
was
that.
a huge lobbyist for Bernie. He worked for Bernie Madoff. You look
I
it up-
do a lot
you-
of reading,
you
and
look
I've
it up.
never read that,
Look-
Tom, but
look
that's
it up.
fine.
You
I
you
read-
Google it. You
Okay,
Google-
and I follow
you
Christie
you
very
Google it
closely, but
and
that's
you'll
fine.
find.
No, no, but anyway, consciously, he would
Okay.
never do such a thing. If he knew what Bernie Madoff was doing, obviously he wouldn't.
I couldn't vote for him as a Republican, but if he was running
can-
against Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren, obviously I would, but
Yeah.
he's not my choice.
But here's the thing, though, if the Republicans are smart, Tom, I think they would vote for a moderate who has a chance of winning the entire country in the general election. The mistake they might make is get somebody like Ted Cruz or Rand Paul, who are further to the right. They will end up probably losing in 2016.
I think
Whereas if
that's a big issue. The primaries are
Right.
going to determine what it is.
That's right.
I know.
And the Republicans have to struggle with,
Yeah,
the primaries tend to get out
yeah.
the more conservative part of
Yes.
their party.
Right.
And they're going to have to rely on the independents for the general election. So
Yeah.
I don't think the Democrats have the same problem. There may very well be a primary in the Democrat. You didn't
yeah.
mention Joe Biden, which, I mean, he
Wow.
might.
He's going
And I
nowhere.
don't,
That's all right.
but I think the Republicans have to struggle with
Yes.
who their candidates are. Now, the
Definitely,
reason that
yes.
Christie is so successful in
New Jersey?
New Jersey is he did two things. He really took on the unions,
Yeah.
and I think the residents appreciated
Yes.
that. And he did a great job on Sandy.
Hurricane Sandy,
Hurricane Sandy,
yes.
and that's why he got a lot of support.
Yes.
That's not national support.
And that's
But-
why the
but-
Republicans may not support him, is
Right.
they'll have that image of him hugging Obama
Yeah.
because Obama got him the federal aid
yeah.
for Sandy, and they're not going to forget that.
Well, something
and I
Tom-
think Tom's other points about some of his political positions make him unpalatable in the primary.
Right. Yeah, that's a dilemma.
Well, I agree. It's going to be very tough for him. But that's why I think if the Republicans are smart, though, and they want to win in 2016, they will vote for somebody who can win in 2016 rather than somebody more to the right who probably won't win. I hate to say it, but Ted Cruz is not going to be the president, in my opinion. I'd bet $1 million on it.
I don't think a
But-
Northeast Republican can win. I
Yeah,
really
you
don't
had
think
you had
so.
Romney who won in a
Right. No, I
blue
think
state,
you're right.
and he
Yeah,
didn't do
but
well
Romney
at all.
was a terrible. He wasn't a Chris Christie at all because he wasn't as strong a speaker, wasn't as strong a candidate, and he was deceptive because when he was in Massachusetts he was one way, and then when he ran for the Republican nomination,
And
as
do
you
you-
know,
and do
he
you
switched
think-
his positions.
And how do you know Chris Christie won't do that?
No, well, we don't know until it happens.
The
but I
reason
think
of all the
Yeah.
all the ones mentioned,
Yeah.
Christie, I think, has the best chance, primarily because I think the public wants CEOs from the states. I don't think
Yeah.
they want Washington.
No.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Oh, governors have a
Governors
much
do
better
well,
chance.
yeah.
I'm sorry, our time has run out. I really was getting into this. And thank you very much, Tom Gilroy. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully the first of many appearances.
Right.
Thank you, Pat Wojtas.
Thank you.
Thank you, John Kurland.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Dave
Thanks, Tom.
McLachlan. Right? I pronounced it right?
that's right.
And thank you, our wonderful crew, George and Azora and Larry and our director, Pete Padula. If you have any comments on the show, please send me an email at tcristiano@comcast.net. Ciao.